In the dark corners of Fairfax County, Virginia, lurks a tale so twisted it leaves a chill, even in the bravest hearts. The legend of the Bunny Man is whispered in hushed tones, a haunting memory of the night he first appeared, a figure in a ragged, filthy rabbit costume, eyes blazing with madness, clutching an axe. It began in 1970, on a cold October night. A young couple parked their car near an old bridge, hoping for a quiet moment alone. Suddenly, they heard a scraping sound, metal dragging against stone, then a bone-chilling voice snarling, "Get off my land." In the dim light, they saw him, the Bunny Man. He lifted his axe high, and with a swift, furious swing, shattered their windshield. Shrieking, the couple sped off, but the image of the crazed man, fur-matted with dirt and blood, etched itself into their minds. Since that night, stories have spread, each one more horrifying than the last. Some say he's the ghost of an escaped asylum patient who hides in the woods, haunting the county in search of revenge. Others claim he's a restless spirit, doomed to stalk the shadows forever, fueled by a rage he can't control. They say that if you dare to visit the bridge at midnight, you might hear the sound of his axe scraping the ground, his ghostly form lingering in the shadows, waiting for another soul to claim. People swear they've seen him, his silhouette under the moonlight, his eyes gleaming from the depths of the forest. And one thing is certain: once you see the Bunny Man, you'll never forget the sight of his axe, the echo of his growl, or the terror that will haunt your dreams.
In the dense, silent depths of Bradley Woods near Lincolnshire, a dark figure roams, the Black Lady of Bradley Woods, a spectre draped in endless mourning. She appears at twilight, her form shrouded in a flowing black gown that seems to absorb the very light around her. Her face is pale and sorrowful, framed by a long, dark veil that hides her eyes, but reveals a silent, haunting grief etched across her ghostly features. Legend says she was once a young woman, a mother whose husband went off to war, leaving her and their infant alone. But one terrible night, soldiers stormed the village, stealing her child and leaving her desolate. Consumed by a profound, unyielding sorrow, she wandered into the woods, where her wails of despair echoed through the trees. Now, her restless spirit haunts the forest, forever searching for the child stolen from her, an eternity bound to her endless mourning. Those who have seen the Black Lady say she moves without sound, gliding over the forest floor, her black dress trailing like smoke. Her presence brings a chilling, bone-deep cold, and her mournful cries pierce the night, carrying a sadness so intense it leaves an ache in the hearts of all who hear it. Villagers warn against approaching her, for those who venture too close feel an icy hand grip their shoulder, a desperate, lingering hold, as though she's begging for help. Some believe that if you call out to her, she will turn to you, lifting her veil to reveal hollow, grief-stricken eyes that seem to draw you into her despair. Those who meet her gaze are said to be marked by sorrow, plagued by visions of loss and shadowed by misfortune. To this day, locals avoid Bradley Woods at dusk, lest they encounter the Black Lady and her relentless sorrow, a tragic figure bound forever to her haunting search for the child she lost. In the fog-laden town of Exeter, Rhode Island, the terrifying tale of Mercy Brown still lingers, casting shadows over history. In the winter of 1892, young Mercy died from a brutal case of tuberculosis, then known as consumption. But even death couldn't silence her story. Not long after her burial, rumours spread like wildfire. Her family too was falling mysteriously ill, wasting away as though something sinister was siphoning the life from them. Driven by fear, townsfolk began to suspect that Mercy was no ordinary victim of disease. They whispered that she had returned from the grave as a vampire, a malevolent spirit consuming her family's life essence from beyond. Desperate to end the curse, they resolved to perform a grim ritual, exhuming her body from the frozen ground. When they opened her coffin, they found her shockingly well preserved, her skin pale but intact, her nails and hair seemingly grown, and her heart still containing fresh blood. Panic gripped them. They believed she was feeding, her undead spirit reaching from the grave. In a macabre attempt to end her hold over the living, they cut out her heart and liver, burning them to ash in a desperate ritual meant to destroy her lingering influence. The ashes were mixed into a tonic and given to her ailing brother, in hopes that drinking it would break the deadly connection Mercy held over him. But some say that Mercy's spirit did not rest after this ritual. Locals claim to see her figure drifting through the cemetery at dusk, her pale face visible in the moonlight, watching silently as if waiting for her next victim. Others report a suffocating chill in the air near her grave, an unnatural cold that wraps around them like icy hands. Even today, Mercy Brown's grave remains, a chilling reminder of superstition and desperation. Visitors say that if you stand near her grave at night, you can feel her presence, an overwhelming sense of sorrow and vengeance, a ghostly whisper from a past that refuses to be buried. Her legend endures as a reminder of how fear and folklore can reach out from the grave, grasping at the living with cold, relentless hands.
In the hushed corridors of high schools and dark corners of the internet, whispers of Carmen Winstead's name bring a chilling shudder to those who know our story. Carmen was just 16 when her life ended in one of the cruelest ways imaginable. A life stolen by her so-called friends and left to fester in the shadows of a sewer drain. One cold, gray afternoon, Carmen's classmates cornered her by an old sewer. Teasing turned into shoving, and a sudden push sent her tumbling into the darkness below. The fall was brutal. She landed neck first on the cold, damp concrete, her final scream swallowed by the depths of the sewer. Her friends, faces pale with shock, ran, never confessing what they'd done. They claimed it was an accident, just a prank gone wrong. But the truth was much darker. Now, they say Carmen's spirit wanders, restless and vengeful, seeking justice for the betrayal she suffered. Those who receive her story in a chain message are warned. If you don't spread this tale, Carmen will come for you, and many who ignore the warning pay a terrible price. There are chilling accounts of those who laughed off the message, only to be found later with twisted necks, faces frozen in terror. Just like Carmen's last moments, some claim to have seen her, a shadowy figure lurking in the dim glow of streetlights, her eyes wide, cold and empty, staring as if from beyond the grave. Others swear they've heard her whisper, a faint ghostly voice saying, "I'm still here." So, when you read Carmen Winstead's story, remember, she is waiting, somewhere beyond the veil, for those who ignore her tale. And if you choose not to share it, don't be surprised if you hear a soft whisper in the dead of night, or feel icy fingers brush your neck, reminding you that Carmen has never really left. In the shadowed alleys of Greenock, Scotland, lurks a figure known only as the Catman, a creature half hidden in mystery and spine-chilling whispers. Since the 1970s, stories of this eerie figure have crept through the town, haunting those who hear them. They say he moves like a ghost, a filthy, gaunt figure with wild eyes that gleam with something both human and unearthly. His hands, calloused and dirt-streaked, reach out to catch his prey, rats, which he devours with chilling primal hunger, blood staining his fingers and lips. But it's not only his taste for rats that stirs terror. The legend claims he lives among wild cats, moving silently alongside them as though he were one of their own. The cats accept him, even protect him, slinking through the shadows as his ghostly guardians. Locals swear that on quiet nights, you can see him crouched low, his face barely visible in the dim light, with wild cats prowling around him in a tight, watchful circle. Rumors say that if you lock eyes with the Catman, you'll feel an unnatural chill, as if he's peering into your soul. Some claim he was once a normal man, driven mad and feral by a life of solitude, or perhaps a restless spirit bound to Greenock streets. Many who have dared to approach him in those dark alleyways have quickly turned back, too shaken by his hollow gaze, feeling the weight of something ancient and unbroken. To this day, people pass the alleys of Greenock with hushed steps, casting wary glances into the darkness, knowing the Catman might be watching, his eyes glinting in the night, waiting, forever lingering in the shadows, more more ghost than man, bound to the darkness alongside his feline companions. In the dead silence of the night, a woman returned home to an eerie sight. Her loyal Doberman, gasping and choking, its powerful body convulsing on the floor. Panic surged as she knelt by her faithful pet, its eyes wide with desperation, pawing frantically at its throat. She wrestled with its jaws, struggling to dislodge whatever was caught. Finally, with a sickening pull, she freed a grotesque object, a severed, bloodied human finger. Horrified, she quickly dialed the vet, explaining in broken words the disturbing discovery. "Get here now," she urged, barely able to suppress the terror building inside her. Leaving her Doberman with the vet, she returned home, shaken but grateful her dog had survived the encounter. Yet as she walked into her darkened living room, a sudden chill ran down her spine. Her skin prickled as if she was being watched. Then came a soft, almost imperceptible sound. Something dragging across the floor, moving closer. She reached for her phone, heart pounding, and dialed the police, whispering her fears into the receiver. When the officers arrived, they searched the house. In the shadows of her bedroom closet, they found him. A man crouched and clutching his bleeding hand, his face twisted in rage and pain, his gaze wild. Her Doberman had done more than just protect. It had bitten clean through the intruder's fingers, forcing him into hiding as he bled out in her own home, lurking only feet away. As they hauled the intruder away, the woman shivered, realizing how close she had been to unspeakable horror. Her brave Doberman had saved her life, but the chilling reminder of those bloodied fingers, a haunting trophy of terror, would forever linger in her memory. hands and steely eyes, they would press the colander onto the suspect's head, the metal pressing down cold and biting. The suspect, bewildered and terrified, would feel every nerve prickling with dread, trapped under that metallic cage as the interrogators began their relentless questioning. For every answer, their eyes would narrow, scrutinizing the slightest twitch, listening to the hum of the machine as if it were an oracle. And then the moment of terror, the photocopier would sputter, lights flashing as it spat out a single sheet of paper. In bold, damning letters it read, "He's lying. No escape. No mercy." The suspect's denials would crumble under the weight of that simple, ominous phrase. Each lie printed like a final verdict, sealing their fate in ink. For hours the interrogation would continue, each piece of paper a silent accusation. Those trapped by the colander lie detector soon broke, their confessions ripped from them by fear and paranoia, convinced the machine held powers beyond human comprehension. And while rational minds would dismiss this setup as a mere psychological trick, to those who lived through it, the memory of that cold colander and the whispering hum of the photocopier still haunts their darkest nightmares. They say that some suspects, after enduring this twisted ritual, could still hear the faint sound of that photocopier, a ghostly reminder of the machine that could see through lies and leave nothing but a trail of fear in its wake. In the quiet town of Terrell, Texas, whispers of a woman known as Clara Crane still echo through the streets. Her legend, a chilling reminder of the darkness lurking beneath the surface of everyday life. Clara, or as she's feared to be called, the Candy Lady, was once a sweet-faced woman, a stranger to no one, who always seemed to have a pocket full of treats for the children who dared to approach her. But her candy was no innocent delight. No, it was something far more sinister. It is said that Clara lured children into her grasp with the promise of sugary sweets, a gleam of kindness hiding the abyss of madness beneath her pale skin. Once they followed her into the shadows, they were never seen again. Parents, frantic with worry, found only the faintest traces. A few candies dropped on the ground, a small shoe, a forgotten doll. The children had vanished without a trace, swallowed whole by the night. The authorities could never find Clara. Some say she was the inspiration behind a real unsolved neighbors claim she still roams the town, waiting for the next curious soul. A soft voice beckoning them closer with the rustling of candy wrappers, until the air thickens with the smell of decay and fear. And if you ever hear the faint crinkle of paper behind you in the dark, or feel the brush of cold fingers against your arm, beware. Clara Crane may be closer than you think. In the dark corners of Brentwood, New Hampshire, the name Goody Cole still sends shivers down the spine of those who dare speak it. Eunice Cole, a frail, weathered woman with eyes that seemed to see through the veil of life and death, was condemned to be a witch twice. The first accusation came in 1656, when the village suffered one tragedy after another. Crops withered, children fell ill, and livestock died in grotesque, unnatural ways. Whispers spread like wildfire. It was her, Goody Cole, they said. She was the one responsible for the misfortune that gripped their town. In 1673, the accusations resurfaced with a vengeance. Goody Cole was arrested once more, this time charged with witchcraft after the village saw another wave of disaster. Her name became a curse on every passing wind. People claimed she could curse the very earth beneath their feet. Her spells laced with malice and blood. oppressive weight of the full moon, a sinister pastime thrives in the quiet corners of rural farms. A cruel, twisted game known as cow tipping. The legend speaks of young thrill seekers who, driven by a strange, dark hunger, stalk the unwitting cows as they sleep soundly in the fields. The cows, standing on their hooves, are completely unaware of the danger creeping toward them. Silently, the tipper approaches, each step measured, each breath held. Then, with a single violent shove, the massive creature topples. The thud of the cow crashing to the earth echoes through the still night, a shocking sound that shatters the quiet like a gunshot. The cow, stunned and disoriented, struggles to rise, its heavy body too disoriented to defend itself. But it's not just the thrill of the topple that lingers. There's something deeply unsettling about the practice. Some say it awakens something ancient, a curse bound to the land. There are whispers in the shadows that those who partake in cow tipping may be marked, followed by a presence that never leaves them, a watchful, unseen force that waits. Others say that the cows, though silent, are not as innocent as they appear. They have their own dark secrets, secrets they whisper to the night, seeking vengeance on those who dare disturb their rest. And once the game is played, there's no turning back. In the dark corners of Latin America, where the night seems to swallow the very soul of the land, there lurks a creature born from the deepest shadows. El Cucuy. It is a monster of nightmares, a thing so vile and malevolent that even the bravest tremble at its name. A twisted ghost, it is said to feed on the fear of children, prowling the darkness like a predator waiting for its prey. El Cucuy comes in many forms, sometimes a shadowy figure with glowing eyes, sometimes a creature cloaked in tattered rags, its face hidden in darkness, but always it is no empty threat. Those who disobey, who wander too far into the night, often vanish without a trace, their bodies never found. The air grows cold where El Cucuy treads, the silence broken only by the sound of distant, haunting footsteps. Beware, for if you hear the wind howl at night, and if the shadows seem to move with a life of their own, El Cucuy might be closer than you think, waiting, watching, and hungry.
In 2016, a strange and unsettling phenomenon began creeping across the country. Clowns, grotesque figures painted in bright colors, started appearing in the most unexpected places. They emerged from the dark, their smiles stretched too wide, their eyes glinting with something that felt wrong, something that seemed to hunger for fear. It began with fleeting glimpses, reports of lone clowns standing silently at the edges of forests, staring with their heads tilted just slightly, as if amused by some private, twisted joke. Then the sightings grew closer, figures appearing beneath streetlights at 3 a.m., lurking near playgrounds, their bright costumes garish under the moonlight. Witnesses described the feeling of being watched, a chill that ran down the spine when they saw those crimson smiles in the shadows. They never spoke. They simply stared, sometimes holding balloons that bobbed eerily in the night breeze. People reported being chased, the clowns lunging out of the darkness, their laughter shrill and unnatural, echoing through empty streets. The terror spread like wildfire, each new sighting feeding the growing paranoia. By the time October rolled in, the sightings had become a frenzy, a nightmare that blurred the lines between prank and something much more sinister. The clowns were no longer just hiding in the dark. They were approaching homes, tapping on windows, their faces inches from the glass. Their eyes were vacant, their painted grins too wide, and the fear they left in their wake was real, a creeping dread that no one could shake. The clowns eventually disappeared, fading back into the shadows as quickly as they had come, but the unease remained. Now, whenever someone catches a flash of color in the darkness, a hint of red or yellow, they wonder, have the clowns returned? They say it happened on a calm, clear afternoon, an unsuspecting scuba diver plunging into the depths of a peaceful lake, unaware of the nightmare lurking above. As he drifted beneath the surface, an aerial water bomber, a monstrous helicopter carrying a massive bucket, descended over the lake, ready to scoop up gallons of water for the raging wildfire miles away. The diver never saw it coming. him skyward with a force so brutal he was stripped of breath and bearings. He was yanked into the open air, disoriented, tangled within a swirling mass of water that blinded and suffocated. Some say his screams were drowned out by the chopper's roar. Carried for miles, helpless, he was finally dumped, along with the payload, over the inferno. Firefighters on the ground watched in horror as not just water, but a twisted figure fell from the sky, crashing onto the burning earth. A scuba diver in full gear, limbs contorted in a final futile attempt at escape. The myth has been debunked, dismissed as impossible, a dark tale born from the fevered imaginations of those looking for thrills. But those who fight fires in the wild will still glance up nervously when the bomber passes overhead, haunted by the thought of what might be lurking unseen in that churning mass of water, a fleeting echo of a nightmare that might just be real.